If Kanye is listening to me right now, please don't do that. It's very bad. We are in an area where we have 95% of the vineyards are vinified by the cooperative, which is not really a cooperative, but by Mezzocorona, which makes Pinot Grigio Santa Margherita, which American housewives on the West Coast enjoy very much. And I also saw a bottle in a Kanye West video. So if Kanye is listening to me right now, please don't do that. It's very bad. Like, it's bad wine, very bad. Like, it's just, no, it's not good. Like, it really kills viticulture in this area to drink that thing. Yeah, it's not cool. Anyway, so the problem is we have the lowest amount of vignerons per hectare. So we have 700 hectares. There's less than 10 winemakers here that grow their grapes and that vinify their grapes. So there is not a lot of representation around the world because there is not a lot of people. And this is also because it is so economically advantageous to just sell the grapes because you get a lot of money thanks to subsidies. So they're selling supermarket wine, but the grapes are paid as if they were like super stuff. You get 20 to 25,000. It's getting quite intense with the mosquitoes, huh? You get 20 to 25,000 euros per hectare for selling grapes that are worth basically nothing. You have to imagine that we have yields of between 55 and 80 quintals per hectare, because Teroldigo produces a lot. Here, the white's less. Our neighbor that is like not good at producing a lot of grapes still produces around 230, 250 quintals per hectare. So it's massive. And to do that, they also isolated two mass-producing clones of Teroldigo in the 60s. So first we went from an agriculture that was, here all the families had their own little piece of land before the First World War. And because the church split it up, it's not one of those areas where you actually had big landowners who owned everything and had some kind of feudal style proto-slavery. Here it was all divided and each family had their piece of land, they had their cows, they were in pergolas. So they were very wide, so you could plant potatoes and corn underneath the pergolas. You would cut the hay, feed the bee. So basically it was all kind of self-sufficient. They would all have also a little job on the side, to get some money. But to actually produce wine was almost secondary. So you would check in September, October what was hanging. You would actually, harvest the grapes, make your own wine, and then a merchant would come, either local or from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, because this is an area that was always under the control of the northern parts. All the wine that was produced in the Adige Valley was always going north. This was the most southern tip of the German-speaking realm. From the late Roman times until basically today, it's still the same. So, people drive down here. In the Middle Ages, they had to go to see the Pope to guarantee their power, because obviously, divine power justified secular power. So basically, when your son was becoming king, you kind of went to the Pope. So they drove through here. They saw that the climate was different, that you had more opulent productions. On the way back, they would basically start to trade stuff from here. And it was like, what today would be what in the 80s was the Primitivo for the Italians, the southern warm red wine, was this area for the Germans. And so we have mostly red indigenous varieties, only one white, which is Nosiola. And, but this changed after the Second World War because everything impoverished, so the connections between this consumption in the center of Europe and here were interrupted. They peaked, like the golden era here was between 1800 and 1914. Like those were the years where basically all the wineries were built. There's more than 30 cellars in Mezzolombardo and only 3 are active. So it just stopped, it all impoverished. When Italy then took charge of it after the Second World War, they actually started to implement this cooperative winemaking. So don't harvest your grapes, make your wine, just make the grapes, go to work in the bank or in the factory, and then you sell us the grapes and we deal with it. So this impoverished the wine culture of this place heavily. Almost all wineries just went bankrupt. and the system just invested on this use of grapes to make wine. And obviously this gives you also the possibility to just buy random grapes and make them and sell them as. So it really changed the way agriculture is made, and it changed the perception of wine here in the area, because if you sell your grapes to a cooperative, you kind of also want to identify with it. So also your threshold to quality kind of changes. And it's still like this today. So it's not really a positive place. Like, it's impossible to buy a vineyard here and start your own business. It's way too expensive because there is a bubble, obviously. So the economic incentives of the region kind of keep the system working, but it's it's fiction. It's not the real world. So we only have we have less than 10 wineries on 700 hectares. So we have around 80 to 100 hectares per vigneron. Not really, but statistically. If you go to Piemonte, every 3 hectares you have a winemaker. So this obviously plays out in a way that no matter if the variety, the quality of the wine can be excellent, it's just the transformation and how you present it that is not efficient, because you don't have a lot of alternatives. There is not a lot of winemakers. A lot of the winemakers obviously then make the better version of the cooperative style. So they make Bordeaux style cuvées. It's changing a little bit, but very slowly. The cooperative has no intention of investing in organic or changing the type of agriculture, because that would be too complicated for the weekend farmers that give them the grapes. So they just get their bag, every weekend they jump on a tractor, they spray it, they act tough about it, who wakes up the earliest on Sunday, and then they just give the grapes and get their money. And unfortunately, if you want to make quality agriculture, that's not how it works. How much wine do you need for €3 in the supermarket? Maybe we don't need any, Okay, let's keep it that.
Yeah, I've been getting skeeted.
Yeah. But I saw it there in your hands, like this.